May those who come for peace be comforted. May those who come for healing be healed. May those who look for God remember thou art that. And may we all bless each other by being who we have always been, by sharing what we love, and teaching what we know, and encouraging all people everywhere on their journeys back to wholeness. Good morning. For 8 years of my work life, this was my home. And they were the best 8 years of my life. Thank you. Because I had the privilege of being centered in my life purpose and by sharing something that I loved and being able to teach what had worked for me, truly. That song, which was so great to hear, thank you, Lisa and Dr. Judy, for that beautiful rendition, I heard about 50 years ago in Washington, D.C., in a little club. And it was the first time that I heard something that was not quantitative but seemed qualitative. And I thought, well, maybe that's what spirituality is. Something inside is keeping me strong. And what could that possibly be? Because that was not the orientation that I had had, or that probably any of us had had in the church of our birth. And that the teaching, which I can't elaborate any more on, of whatever I feel is whoever I am. And then a very long time after that, I encountered New Thought. And that gave a framework and a context for that. I learned about a God that made sense to me. And I learned that the spiritual practice of life was a way of working. Everything in life can be worked along spiritual principles. Now, a way of, for those who take notes, this would be a good time to be prepared. A way of working is an expression that I had first encountered in the theater, that an actor needs to have a way of working towards the creation of any kind of character. And I had never heard it in any other context. But I realized after preaching for a couple of decades that, the first thing that we are seeking is a God that makes sense, a higher power that we can come to understand and rely on. But what we're also really seeking, and what I believe that we have all found in New Thought, guitar pick, uniquely Nashvilleian, totally Nashville, is that we were really trying to find a way that would make sense in life. Because again, the religion of our childhood didn't make any sense. And it was not focused on being here now and being here in our authenticity and our power and our beauty. We wanted to find a way of working. How does life work? What do I have to do to make this thing happen in a right way? And so the history of religion we all know about for 50,000 years. All kinds of crazy stuff has gone on. Well, how do I get more rain? Or how do I, why is everybody mad at me? And why is my life not working out? Well, we don't have an appropriate way of working, and we find that in our spirituality. We have a way of working all of life's challenges and opportunities. I have a lot to say, and the print is really tiny, so I'm going to have to really be looking at it. But I have a new best friend, ChatGPT. Does anybody know about artificial intelligence here? Okay, in the way back there. Get to know it. That's all I can tell you. So I asked the ChatGPT the other day, I said, is there a definition for a way of working? Well, sure enough, in 2 seconds, I get this long, beautiful thing, which apparently it's very common in organizational development and in engineering. Now it's used a great deal in engineering. A way of working offers a meaningful process and clear principle. I like it. A way of working is a blueprint for responding to life's experiences, operating within a given framework, and expecting an outcome. Okay. What can I apply that to? Anything, everything, everything. Here are the 6 steps in a way of working. You become aware of an experience, a conflict, or an opportunity. Number 1, be self-reflective enough to ask yourself, how am I going to work this? What do I need to do here? Other than being a total victim, can I participate in my own life? I think so. I mean, this is the first step, right? Because I loved the church that I grew up in, but anytime anything hard happened or awful happened, it was like offer it up for the poor souls in purgatory. That don't feed the bulldog. That doesn't make anything better. And I'm a grown-up and I want to be able to do something better. How will I work this? By relying on known principles. In engineering of any kind, it's going to be a principle-based thing, a principle like gravity, a principle like electricity, a principle. Number 5, 4, what are my roles and responsibilities here? Everything is your responsibility if it's your life. All of it. For any of us who have been in long-term relationships or been married, or anybody have a starter spouse that they're no longer with anybody, okay. You know, very often we have that experience where we go, well, you know, I'll bring half and you bring half, and without you I'm nothing, and you still have half. If you're going to have a healthy relationship, you both have to be 100% responsible for the quality of the relationship. Am I right, long-term married people? Yes, okay. So what's my role? What's my responsibility in my life? 100% of it. Everything. Everything. And then what are my core practices? Which is going to be tenacity, persistence, consistency. This is what we learn here, yes? None of this is alien to anything that you've heard here. And then the most important part is to be reflective, to look at feedback, to look at the outcome, and to ask myself, have I grown? Now, these known principles, let's go back because this is how this is a spiritual experience and what you can rely on. Your core principles, if you want to call it the Unity 5 basic principles, that's fine. But you know, any kind of growth, any kind of coming together, any kind of maturing, any kind of responsibility means at some point you got to engage in a series of what I call binaries. We often say our first basic principle is that there is only one power existence in the universe. It's creative power of God. And the binary is that's either true or it's not. And that the life principle, the vitality principle, that is the entire cosmos, I get you had cicadas here. We didn't have them in New Mexico. You had some cicadas come visit you, right? The life principle, it just knows how to operate, and it does. All things have their own intelligence. as do galaxies far, far away. They're all operating on principles, whether they're conscious of them or not. God is the creative, ongoing principle of the universe. And what is true of any living thing is true of you. What other principles are there? Well, the ones that you decide to embody. The principles that you will decide to adhere to. And you will determine what they are based on your life experience. If you're wise enough to understand that anytime you encounter anything, there's a way of working, to know that what is my responsibility and what do I really think about this? What is my position? What is immutable in my life? Let's start with the fun and the obvious one. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? In the spiritual wisdom written in that book, there is no in-between. You will either use your powers for good or evil. Have you decided which one you will be? And some of us will say, well, it's so much fun to be mean sometimes. I know it's fun to be mean. Does that get you what you want? No. Because what you resist, you create. You want more trouble? Resist. So you absolutely unequivocally committed to using your magical powers for good. And I hope that you would say yes. I would hope that you would say yes. Life. Is it worth it or not? With all its difficulties, with all, as it says in Desiderata, with all its sham and drudgery, the world is still a beautiful place. You're just either going to be 100% there or you're not. I used to be not. I used to be it wasn't worth it. It was too hard. It was too sad. It's a choice. It's a decision that you're going to make. How about this one? I am the primary creative force in my own life. And by primary, I mean like by 90% of the stuff that happens to me. Not 100%. Not 100%. But I am either the primary creative force in my life or I'm not. If I hold on to the idea that I am not the primary creative force in my life, then I'm going to wind up being roadkill. Go through life as a total victim. And I used to be like that. My spirituality was so primitive. How primitive was it, RJ? My spirituality was so primitive that when I was in my 20s and I had a car, I had this bizarre feeling that the car was out to get me, that it only existed to take any amount of money I had from me and to keep me imprisoned to keeping it going. How embarrassing is that? But I've told more embarrassing things from this platform, I'm sure, over the years. And when did I wake up and think, I did, but I really remember that feeling of thinking, I wish I didn't have to have a car, it's just so expensive and it takes all my money. Please, what a whiner. I am equal to the needs of my own life. You either are or you're not. And if you're not, you're hopelessly neurotic. You are always blaming anybody for what's wrong in your life. You have to be inherently equal to the needs of your life. It's yours. If not you, who could possibly be helpful to you? And you see, the thing that's the great challenge here is that when we answer in the affirmative to all these binaries, as many as you can think of, and you can think of hundreds of them, vanilla or chocolate, chocolate all the time, always, life becomes simple, if not always easy. You can face any possible thing, and there's a way of working. No, I can do this. I may not feel like it right now. I may be sad right now. I might be tired right now. I might feel lonely right now, but I can do this. And when it might be time for you to go, how will you view that? Death is either a punishment for sin, something to resist. I will not go gentle into that dark night. Or to realize this is the natural, grace-filled unfolding of every living thing. And that the creative principle that is God will always create, sustain, and then recycle for the mutual benefit of the ongoingness of the cosmos itself. It's not complicated, but it's not easy. And as I've said for decades, this is a great, big, grown-up spirituality where I assume responsibility for my life, for my place in it. And ultimately, once I have decided, made the important decisions, I know I have a way of working everything. And anything external to me is irrelevant, is utterly irrelevant. It does not matter what's going on out there. It does not matter what is in the news. It does not matter. When I recognize that I am such as I am, such as you are, perfect, whole, and complete within myself, doesn't matter who the president is. That for me in my house, I will always live as if the revolution has been won. I will lead with my God self as I trust that you will lead with your God self in integrity, whatever your worldview is, as long as it's one of nonviolence. But here's the hard part. The beauty part of it is that the gift has already been given at birth. But the hard part is that we do want to make exceptions. A month ago, the Supreme Court handed down a decision where they said that if the president is doing presidential jobs, that you can break the law. And, I really thought about that deeply. And I caught myself up in my own sometimes facetiousness, because I do remember saying from this very platform that, if you don't think gay married should be married, then don't marry a gay. Is it as simple as that? In reality, yeah, it is. And then this complex ruling from the Supreme Court, I thought, well, what is that to me? Well, if I don't believe I should break the law, I won't. I won't. Now, I've never had a job where that was a possibility. And I pray for those who do have those kinds of jobs, where sometimes they have to send people into harm's way and whatnot. But I've never had that kind of job. So for me in my house, the thing is like, no, I don't ever get a break. There's no such thing as an exception. I don't get to break the law with immunity. Because the most important principle that we base all of this on is that life will be to you what you are to it. The wheel is always turning, the wheel of karma. As you reap, you will sow. That is the very foundation of our spiritual practice and the teachings of Jesus. So my work is always about being mindful about, am I giving myself an excuse to break the law metaphysically? I had a teacher that used to say, never sacrifice principle, not even for a special occasion. There is no time and no circumstance that you are free from that while we are incarnate on this planet. It is the way it works. It is the way it works. Now, again, I know how tempting it is. I know how fun it is, right? When someone wrongs you bad, you want to get even, yeah? But a way of working is not calling up the equalizer so Queen Latifah will go beat up somebody for you. That works on TV, yes? That's not an effective way of working in real life. A way of working is being rock solid in the choices that you have made. Rock solid in your conviction about what your life is about. And it took me decades to figure this out. In a way, there's no hurry. The younger, the better. But it's a lifelong process of trial and error, this way of working. And in the error, to say, what have I learned? When did I go wide of the mark? Regularly and often. And what's the way of even working that, of retrieving that? When I'm wide of the mark, is to be aware enough to go, ooh, what was my part in that? Because there's always going to be my part in that. And instead of blaming somebody, which is hard, it's hard. Because sometimes we are wronged, yeah? Other people act not in integrity. But to not blame the person, but to be aware of the activity and think, if I'm discerning that they did this to me, well, to make the commitment, I will not do that to anyone. I will not pass that on. I will not perpetuate that. To make restitution. Have I learned something? Yes. Will I abide by it as best I can? Not when it's convenient, as best I can. But I like that God gives me, right? This way of working, and to see your spiritual understanding are 5 basic principles and the very core notions that surround that, like nonviolence and non-resistance. To hold tight to that without making exception, you will advance so far beyond anything that you dreamed of, and I can say that because I did. I did. The one thing that Charles Fillmore said about unity is that our purpose is to teach the principle the Master taught and to prove it. To prove it, to keep working, and to see everything as an opportunity for me to be in my superpower of consciousness and creativity. Every encounter, every healing, every opportunity. And we have each other to help us do that. Which is the point of gathering. Just like I said, that nothing else outside of it really has any effect on me, ideally. It's even here, as much as I love being here. It doesn't matter who's standing here. Because it's your practice, it's your life. And as long as they're telling you the truth, that there's something inside you that is perfect, whole, and complete. There is something inside you that makes you strong. There is something inside you that can dream worlds into existence. As long as you are reminded of that when you come here and experience deep fellowship, which happens when we encourage each other on our journey. Yes, is why we gather. It's why we gather, because I need that support. And I bet it's helpful for you as well. When Aretha Franklin passed, there were lots of things on TV and on YouTube about her. In one interview she gave towards the end of her life, they asked her some broad question about music, and she said, it doesn't matter what it is, it all goes back to church. It all goes back to church. And no matter what the question or the opportunity or the challenge or the sorrow or the great adventure, whatever, that it all goes back to you. It all goes back to that spark of divinity that is in you. And if you are willing to believe that without arrogance, but with humility, and to do justice, and to love mercy, I can guarantee you that in the fullness of time, you will have a life that you will be very proud of and deeply grateful for. I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to be here in my home, my spiritual home, with so many people that I have loved. And I didn't understand until I retired that, not having any children of my own, that I have profound paternal feelings about the churches that I've had the opportunity to serve. And so, bless my heart, I get a little teary when I see all y'all here. Because I love you all. And I love this church and I love this work. And God bless you, friends. Thank you so much.